And I've laid out instead an alternative approach that suggests that we can answer existence questions easily. This is in my recent book, Ontology Made Easy, where I try to revive a more down-to-earth view of how to answer existence questions. I'll take you through it really quick before we're done. All right, so ontology is easy on my view in the sense that all well-formed, straightforward existence questions can be resolved by straightforward conceptual work and sometimes empirical work. So that is to say, are there tables? You've all got the concept of a table, I presuppose, I assume, right? Have a look. There's one now. Okay, we're done, right? Are there, let's see. So in some cases, you can do straightforward empirical work. Sometimes it's harder empirical work. Are there still pileated woodpeckers in the woods of Arkansas? That's empirical work. It might take years to figure it out, but we know how to do it. We know where we're at with it. You can also get straightforward sort of conceptual arguments in some cases. It goes like this. For numbers, start with a straightforward claim that no one's going to dispute. There are 2 cups on the table. But then you can infer from that, trivially it seems like, that if there are 2 cups on the table, the number of cups on the table is 2. So the number of cups on the table is 2, so there is a number, namely 2. For properties, I haven't got a red square. Yeah. Suppose I did, right? You can start with the uncontroversial truth that the square is red, infer from that the square has the property of redness, and so conclude that there is a property, the property of redness, possessed by the square. All right. You see how this is going to go. So what I argued then in that book was that something's wrong with all these so-called deep debates about whether there really are numbers or organisms or tables or whatever. They're answerable too straightforwardly to be the subjects of sort of difficult and deep philosophical debate and discovery. Now, the usual objection that was raised to that claim was that simply makes these this kind of philosophical work too easy. It doesn't take account of why people would have worried about this, of what sort of the deeper debates of philosophy are. So my approach is, in a sense, a return to something like a conceptualist view, which means I also do have, I can give it greater length, responses to the worries about analyticity and externalist theories of meaning. But at any rate, where we seem to be left at this stage in the discussion is with a kind of unpleasant, awkward dilemma, right? How are we going to think of philosophy? If we go with the old school discovery view and think of philosophers way back as they would have in the pre-Socratic times, as engaged in discovering what the world is like, what exists and what its nature is, we end up with these problems, with some conflict with common sense, rivalry with science, a lack of convergence that might seem to lead us into a kind of skeptical torpor, and a kind of epistemic mystery about how we could come to have this knowledge. You could shift over to something like the conceptualist model, right? And think of the work of philosophy as engaged in conceptual or linguistic analysis, in some sense to be further developed, and it's been developed in many ways. But then again, the threats are, this leaves philosophy shallow and uninteresting, just worrying about our language or concepts. Seems to be not worldly. Hey, what we're interested in philosophy was the world, not our language or concepts, my colleagues will often say. And you also have this sort of lingering worry about whether you're going to get a new rivalry with linguistics or cognitive science if what you're really interested in is meanings. So neither seems completely appealing. You seem to be left a bit stuck. Is there anything of value and interest left for philosophy to do, then, that's both plausible and worthwhile? Or should we just give up a discipline that seems to have become either implausible if you take it on the discovery model, or shallow and irrelevant if you take it on the conceptualist model? That's the threat, and with that depressing thought, I shall leave you for a few minutes. See you in a bit.
Did you know that the Institute of Art and Ideas also has a podcast? Philosophy for Our Times brings you the biggest ideas from the leading thinkers around the world every week. Search for Philosophy for Our Times and subscribe today on your favourite podcast platform, SoundCloud or iTunes, to make sure you never miss an episode.